Hi all, in this session I will describe fundamentals of Oracle AUTOTRACE utility. This is Oracle AUTOTRACE is really nice tool uh, to analyze your queries. This tutorial will explain Oracle AUTOTRACE and why it's needed, setup and use of AUTOTRACE, review plan and statistics generated by AUTOTRACE, and understanding the statistics details. AUTOTRACE is a really nice tool in Oracle using which you can view the query execution plan as well as the execution statistics. Depending on what mode it is running, AUTOTRACE can display the returned rows, the query execution plan, and statistics about the execution plan. Now, using explain plan, you can also see the query estimated execution plan. But using AUTOTRACE, you can view both the execution plan and the statistics about the query execution. To use AUTOTRACE, the +trace role must be granted to the user. Suppose using HR user, if you want to use this AUTOTRACE utility, you must have this +trace role granted. And to grant the +trace role, the user must be a DBA. That means that DBA can only grant the +trace role to some other user. And a plan table should be created in the user schema. To create +trace role, you can execute the below script +trace.sql in the Oracle Home SQL plus admin path. Now, AUTOTRACE options. There are several options in AUTOTRACE. The default is set AUTOTRACE off. Here no AUTOTRACE report is generated. This is by default. Another option is set AUTOTRACE on. The query execution takes place and the AUTOTRACE report includes both the optimizer execution path, that means the execution plan, and the SQL statement execution statistics. Let's see in SQL plus how it works. There are several options that I will discuss one by one. Let's set AUTOTRACE on. Now do execute this query. Select count of 1 from hr.empl. See, when I execute this small query, it is showing the result, that is count of 1 248 347, then the execution plan and the vital statistics detail. Later on I will explain the plan and the statistics details. Okay, let's go to the next option. Set AUTOTRACE on explain. This option, in this option the query is run as normal, but it shows only the explain plan, only the execution plan. It does not show the statistics details. Let's execute our query. See, here it is showing the rows returned by the query and it's returning the query execution plan. It's not giving the statistics detail. Next option, set AUTOTRACE on statistics. Here in this option, it's returning the returned row from the query and it's giving the statistics detail, but it's not providing the execution plan detail. Okay, then these options are more important. Set AUTOTRACE trace only. With trace only options, it will not return the returned rows using the query. It will not return the queries returned by the results returned by the query. Let's try that. It is very useful when you are using a query that will return suppose 1000 rows. in this case it is very useful, because after the 1000 rows are returned, then your statistics will show if you don't use trace only option, but it will not return the results. Okay, let's execute some query. This is my query. Oh, there are two queries actually. Okay, let's try it again. Set auto trace only. Now here you can see it's returning 2321 rows, 2321 rows, but it's not showing the returned rows from the query. It is showing only the execution plan and the statistics. This option is very much useful. And there the second option, set auto trace only statistics. Sorry. Now this will return only the statistics detail. You can see it's not returning the query execution plan. Now another option, set auto trace only explain. It will return only the execution plan. It will not return the statistics detail. You can see here it's returning the execution plan only, and this in this case you cannot see any statistics detail. This option is same as auto trace only option, but suppresses the display of the execution statistics. Now another option, set auto trace only expl stat. This will return the query execution plan as well as the statistics detail. Here you can see the statistics details, query execution plan, and also here you can see the statistics details. Okay, now we'll try to explain the several useful information provided by this AutoTrace report. First option is the query execution plan. Second one is the statistics provided. Okay, here you can see, if you look from this level for EMPL, and for it's doing table access full for department table. This is the access method used for DUPT, and it's doing a index range scan using this particular index in EMPL table, and it is accessing EMPL table by the index row ID. Okay, so DPT table, for DPT it's doing a FTS full table scan. For EMPL it's accessing by index row ID by index range scan. Okay, then it's using nested loops to join these two datasets and return the results. Now what is nested loops? Nested loop, you can consider it just as two embedded for loops. In the outer query, suppose if you think like that, in outer query the department, it's like for DPT rec in select this from dpt table loop, then inside there is a loop, inside there it's select this from employees, where dpt.dpt id department id equal to empl dot department id. It's like two embedded for loop. Here you can see I have explained in nested loop join for every row in the first table, the outer table, Oracle accesses all rows in the second table, the inner table. It works like two embedded for loops. Okay. Now there are these three options: rows, bytes, and cost. Rows is the information for the estimated number of rows that will return from the given query at each plan step. Okay, this means that in each step how many number of rows, estimated number of rows are returned. It is also known as cardinality. Previously it is used to called as card, now we call it this is displayed as rows. Bytes, that means size of bytes of the data that the cost based optimizer expects each steps of the plan to return. How many bytes that each step will return, that is directly dependent with the number of rows returned. Now the cost. The cost is assigned at each step of the query plan by the CBO. CBO works, it actually works like that. For a single query, if you fire it, it will generate several different execution plan, and the plan that have the least cost, it will use that plan finally by, it will be used by the optimizer finally. The query plan with the lowest cost will be executed if there are 4 different plans generated by the particular optimizer for that query. And time, each time elapsed to each step, how many how long it took to process that part. Okay, now we'll discuss on the vital statistics returned by this AutoTrace report. First, recursive calls, 0 recursive calls. That means number of SQL statements executed in order to execute your SQL. Recursive calls can be many different types of calls. One example can be like while it's parsing the query, it may look back to some data dictionary views, and it may query to some data dictionary views it need to query. So those SQL will be considered as recursive calls. Okay, here I have explained the number of SQL calls that are generated in user and system levels on behalf of our main SQL. Suppose in order to execute the main query, Oracle need to parse the query. For this, Oracle might generate further queries to the data dictionary tables, such additional query will be considered as recursive call. That's the same what I was telling earlier. Okay, now the next one is DB block gets. That means total number of blocks read from the buffer cache in the current mode. Number of times the current block was requested. Total number of blocks read from the buffer cache in current mode. Okay, the current mode means it gets retrieval of a block as it exists right now in this moment. Okay, now the third option is consistent reads, 2490 consistent reads. This consistent gets means number of times a consistent read was requested for a block in the buffer cache. Okay, it may require it may read from buffer cache, and it also may require read aside to the undo part, undo segments. It will like what I have mentioned here. Consistent gets are the retrieval of blocks from a buffer cache in read consistent mode and may include read asides to the undo segments. The read to the undo will be also counted here. Next is physical reads. Number of physical reads means the number of physical reads from the data files into the buffer cache. It means the total number of data blocks read from the disk, from the data file, the physical disk where the data file exists. The number equals the value of physical reads direct plus all reads into the buffer cache. The physical read statistics is a measure of how much physical I/O your query is performed. How much physical I/O? Okay. Suppose a physical read of a table or index data places the block into the buffer cache. If you run a query for first time, then it will read the data from the data blocks and place it into the buffer cache. Then we have to perform the logical I/O to retrieve the block. Hence most physical reads are immediately followed by logical I/O. I mean the physical read, the read from the data files to buffer cache is done, then we'll do the logical read afterwards. Redo size. Redo size means number of redo size means the total amount of redo in generated in bytes, number of the amount of bytes of redo information generated while executing the statement. Suppose if you execute some DML, suppose update hr.empl set salary equal to salary plus 200 where job ID equal to SA underscore REP. If you execute that, you can see now the redo size here 27448276. This is the amount of redo generated by this query. This is the number of bytes of redo information generated by this query. Okay. The second, the next thing is bytes sent via SQLnet to client. This means total number of bytes sent to the client from the server. Next option, byte received from via SQLnet from the client. Total number of bytes received from the client to the server. Next one will be SQLnet round trips to or from client. That means total number of SQLnet messages sent to and received from the client. This includes round trip fetches for fetches from multiple row result set or anything like that. Sorts memory, that means number of sorts done in the memory in the sort area. Okay. If you are then the next option will be sorts disk. If you are running a big query with some order by clause, after the sort area becomes full, the sorting operation, this is done in the temp table space. After the sort area becomes full, it pages out to the temp table space and the sort is done in the disk, that means the temp table space. So this sorts disk represent that thing. And 69630 rows processed, that represent what is the number of rows processed by the statement, by this DML statement. Okay, So these are the some of the vital statistics information generated by the auto trace. So in this session I have tried to explain query execution plan and the execution statistics. Okay, thanks for viewing my video in YouTube. Hope you have liked that. I will wait for your inputs and comments. Thank you.